What's good? We back with the Vasyl Lomachenko more. You know, talking about Gervonta Tank Davis, who put on a spectacular show out in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn showed mad love. You know, Brooklyn is, is that spot, man, in New York City, man. I've been to a few of them in Brooklyn. You know, got a different energy and vibe. And I appreciate them for having a great fight and having me out there. And look forward to come back in the summertime and do it again. But, Triple H to 100 wanted me to, say what's the proper path for Tank to take to a little bit of tongue twister to fight Lomachenko. And I got 4 fights for him to build up to a Lomachenko fight. Obviously, Vasyl Lomachenko may have a handshake agreement, or at least Manny Pacquiao thinks he has a handshake agreement to fight Lomachenko at 140. Pacquiao and Lomachenko 140 sometime next year in the fall. I don't know why Pacquiao is identifying Lomachenko to fight, but, they always said he still could make like 140 or 135. I think it's more like 140 right now his career, Manny Pacquiao. I expect him to get past Matisse, and then him and Lomachenko meet at 140. I thought Bob Arum would more likely put Lomachenko in with Linares, which Linares is a tough fight for Lomachenko. Linares has some speed and some size, but the thing about Linares, he makes easy fights look hard. And every time he steps up, he gets knocked out. So that's the issue. But Lomachenko isn't a big, powerful puncher, but ranges. He can change ranges. That's the big issue with him. Is he, if you push him back, if you get him going back, he ain't effective as coming forward. His angles is predicated off the front foot. And you see a lot of different guys that move, and their angles and their movement is predicated on the back foot. And I think that's what fucks up a lot of people, is the fact that he comes forward with that European, front foot style, and his angles and his movement coming forward is real awkward and hard for people to handle. It's the same for Pacquiao. Pacquiao was a guy that wasn't really effective on the back foot like that, but when he came downhill with his aggressive angles, people couldn't handle it. And Lomachenko is puzzling people with those same issues. When he come downhill, the angles that he used, man, it's strange for people to handle. Most people used to, hawking guys down, cutting the ring off on them. But Lomachenko, he don't give you the opportunity. He finds you and he uses those angles. And that's real difficult. So it's not too many people that Tank gonna find to get him ready. But, what you do with that is you get experience by bulk, by accumulation of people with different talents. And you build up with experiences. And I think that's what he got to do. You got to remember, I think they almost, 7, 8, 9 years apart in age. And Lomachenko had a big amateur background. He's seen a lot of styles, But right now, I'm going to tell you this. I don't think Lomachenko has fought a guy with the explosiveness and the power and the just raw talent of the Tank. So the longer that plays out, the Tank is able to get experiences and get mature, not only in the ring, but in the mind. Because we've seen he's a little bit immature now. Floyd told him to get out of Baltimore 3 or 4 years ago, or 2 years ago. And, he needed to get away from home and move to Vegas. And they butted heads over that. Tank didn't want to go out to Vegas. He wanted to stay at home. He caught that case when he punched his friend with the gloved hand. And they settled out of court and they squashed it. He said he finally matured and, moved out of Baltimore, listened to his people. And now he's down there with Coach Kevin Hunningham. With Vegas been a great move for Tank, yeah, it's a lot of great sparring out there. That's what Floyd is hinting at. But at the end of the day, Vegas not for everybody. So whatever works for Tank, and he's starting to listen to his handlers, and obviously he getting a PR person. They going over interviews and stuff like that. He got the look, and he got the East Coast on lock. I can't say that. Like I said, Lomachenko possesses a lot of issues, and Tank has to be ready. The only way you get ready is in the gym and experiences and real fights. Sparring counts for some and experiences. And closing the distance is going to be imperative for him to beat Lomachenko, similar to what Salido did. Make it a dogfight. But the one thing he don't have to worry about is Lomachenko really punching too hard, but he's starting to generate more power and sit down. But he's offensively amateurish, with his offense. He just pity pats with his punches, same as Alexander Usyk. He's very amateurish with his style, and his style, I'm telling you, it won't do well in heavyweight. as far as when he gets to the elite level heavyweights, even though truly on the grand scale of elite boxing, elite heavyweights is graded on the curve. You know, they more like a C on the overall boxing scale, but that's a conversation for another day. But first, if Tevin Farmer beats Billy Dibbs, and Billy Dibbs actually takes the fight with Tevin Farmer because he continuously pulls out for the now they're gonna fight for the vacant IBF strap because Kenichi Ogawa tested positive for his win over Tevin Farmer, which Farmer was robbed in multiple ways. I thought Farmer won that fight, but he got robbed and Kenichi Ogawa had to cheat. I think that's the fight for Tank. Not only because of Farmer's movement and defense, which I don't think will be an issue for Tank for too long, but I think because the magnitude of the fight on the East Coast, that fight is going to be a very, very big fight. You know, a lot of people want to see it. It was built up. They trash talk. They go back and forth. That's a main event fight on the East Coast. And just the experience of fighting in a big main event fight on the East Coast, you know, can get you ready for all the anxiety and all the pressure that a Lomachenko fight will bring somewhere down the line. So as much just as much as outside the ring and everything, as far as the experience and the pressure and the main event, the glitz and the glamour of the fight, I think that's just important as experience that he gets in the ring with Farmer. I think that should be his first fight, his first unification clash. Obviously, I don't believe Lomachenko's ever unified. So that's why I lost my train of thought before I was getting into the glut of this video. But I think Lomachenko will want to unify with Ray Beltran first and then Manny Pacquiao sometime next year. But I don't think Manny Pacquiao understands that. But yeah, I think Tevin will be a good fight for him next. Big East Coast fight. I know Miguel Pritchett has been all over the place with fights. I think he had a replacement, fought somebody else. He's a solid fighter. He's been in some wars, but the experience that you get from a tough, durable Mexican and Miguel Pritchett, I think that's invaluable going into a fight with Lomachenko or preparing for a fight with Lomachenko. Another unification bout, a big fight. You can build a fan base on the West, Southwest, or on the West Coast. They can do that to LA, and that's breaking another border. I know they want Tank to be that star on the East, but if you want to be a global star or in a big star in the whole North American map, you got to fight out West too. And I think Miguel Pritchett will be a good fight for him to fight in Vegas, to fight in a Staples Center, to fight somewhere in Texas. Pritchett is tough as nails. He a little stiff. He's been stopped before. The guy that stopped him, I think Jamel Herring beat him at a lightweight, but this guy was humongous at 126. When Pritchett I believe was a featherweight. I watched that fight. He was humongous, and I believe Pritchett was on the attack on that fight, and the guy knocked him down with a right or left hook or something like that. I can't really remember. I just watched that fight like sometime last year. So, but Pritchett has came back. He had a war with Francisco Vargas. He's supposed to fight Salido. That fell through, I think. I think he's supposed to fight Salido, but he's WBC super featherweight champion. And I think that'll be that'll be a step up in competition from Tevin. And that'll get him 3 belts. Obviously he will want to go for 4. Lomachenko holds the WBO, but, that can be up for vacant. So, in between there, if you want to go for undisputed, whoever end up getting the WBO, I think that'll be the right fight to go. That'll be the third fight instead of the second fight on this one. But boxing politics get in the way. And I think, moving to lightweight before he attacks Lomachenko, and that's if Lomachenko still competes at lightweight and just don't go to 140 and take a Pacquiao and stay there. I think a guy like Luke Campbell is a good fight for him. Luke has fought out in L.A. I don't think he'd be mad for fighting out in, he fought in California, I believe, versus Linares. It was a close fight from some people's vantage point. But I think he won't be mad coming to the East Coast. I know from the UK, from California to Atlantic City in New York area, and when Carl France came from Nottingham to Atlantic City and Ward came from Oakland to Atlantic City, that was considered a neutral site. It was the same distance in miles. So, Luke Campbell won't be coming too far if he fights Tank out east. It'll be a good fight versus Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell. Got more of an amateurish type style. He got power. He's a good fighter. So we really don't know how good he was going to do versus Linares because I think his dad was ill or he ended up passing. So his mind was a little bit fucked up in that fight, I believe. And people say it's probably an excuse, but it's not. Anytime, you got an ill or somebody ill or somebody pass, that's tough to deal with. I can't explain the magnitude of that. But I think Luke Campbell would be a good fight for Tank. A good gold medalist, a good amateur. You about to go up against one of the greatest amateurs of all time. I know it won't be for a title. I mean, obviously, if Richard Comey was to beat Robert Richard Jr., I know that's mandated. Why not fight Richard Comey then? He could be in place if he has a belt. But obviously, Robert Richard Jr. will be a good fight for him. In between, the Luke Campbell / Comey fight for me. But I don't know if Comey gonna get the belt from Easter. Javier Fortuna fight. But obviously, he ain't gonna fight Easter. Even though they had a little bit of beef with Broner way back when. They all friends, and I don't think Broner let Tank fight Robert Easter for a belt. At a particular point, but Robert Easter Jr. got to be busting at the seams to move up to 140. Anyway, so that is what it is. By the time this happens, this potentially, before the Luke Campbell fight, could potentially be 3 fights. It'll be Tevin, Burchett, and then Tank can go for undisputed. If not, he can move to lightweight, fight Luke Campbell or Richard Comey. If Comey gets the belt from Robert Easter Jr., Robert Easter Jr. moves up, does what he does. But let's say our scenario is Tevin, Burchett, Luke Campbell, and I think Javier Fortuna, will be a good test for him because Fortuna is awkward, moving, awkward punches. He's unorthodox, and I think that'd be a good fight for Tank. Especially getting ready to fight one of the most unorthodox, guys, and Lomachenko. Why not fight another irky jerky guy and Javier Fortuna to get you prepped for that? I mean, obviously, I would love to see Tank get a belt and unify with Lomachenko. If Lomachenko beats Linares and whatever happens with Mikey Garcia and him, or in Pacquiao, but I think Fortuna would be a good opponent for Tank leading up to a Lomachenko fight, just because his awkwardness, speed, and he does still have a little power at 35. But these are the 4 fights I think that should happen. You could plug in undisputed before between Birch and Campbell. You could plug in Comey with Campbell as well. If Comey gets the belt from Robert Richard Jr. in a rematch, and if it gets made, and then Javier Fortuna, in the last one, I think that's a good path for Tank to get ready for Lomachenko. That's like a 2-year thing, possibly 2 years, 1.5. He's 23, but who knows what can happen to that point. A lot can happen. Lomachenko could lose to Pacquiao. He can lose to Linares. He can lose to Ray Beltran. Well, no, he can lose to Ray Beltran, but you never know.